Hello everyone, my name is Sir Nave and welcome to the video. Today I will be telling you the top 10 best quest acts in Rec Room. And if you have no idea what quests are, they are a series of games in the social VR game Rec Room where you go through a series of levels known as acts in the game, killing an assortment of enemies like goblins, robots, bats, and even skeleton pirates. At the end, you defeat a boss for a reward based on how well you did. Now that that's out of the way, there are a couple of things I want to say before the video starts. First off, there are a couple of rules to this video. The first one being that boss acts don't count, as they only consist of the boss itself and nothing else. Although, acts with mini-bosses do count, as they actually have a level to them, just with the mini-boss at the end. The second rule is that neutral places in the quests don't count, like the starting rooms and the Grand Hall and Crescendo of the Blood Moon, as they are not levels. One last thing, everything in this list is my opinion. My most favorite act could be your least favorite, and that's okay. If you have a different list, make sure to let me know what it is in the comment section down below. Now, without further ado, let's start with the video. The number 10 spot on this list will be going to Act 1 of Golden Trophy. Golden Trophy was the first quest added into Rec Room, meaning that this act is what started it all. Aside from being the first act ever in Rec Room, it is also a very pleasant and simple level, making it enjoyable for both new players and old players alike. Overall, Act 1 of Golden Trophy is a great level as well as an amazing introduction to the quest. The number 9 spot on this list will be given to the act Flight Deck and the Rise of Jumbotron. This level is a great challenge as well as very unique as this is the only act as of now to contain cutscenes. It takes a good amount of skill to complete this act due to the ludicrous amount of robots shooting at you as well as the limited ground. So if you can beat it, good for you. The number 8 spot on this list goes to Golden Trophy Act 4. First things first, it does not take detectives to figure out that the Flight Deck in Jumbotron is very similar to this, but there are a few reasons why this act placed higher. The first reason is that this act came first, before the Flight Deck in Jumbotron. Second, it is the first challenge in Rec Room. Assuming that the first quest you have or will be is Golden Trophy, Act 4 is the first real challenge of the quest. The first 3 acts were fairly simple, but this act, with its limited ground, multitude of enemies, and the introduction of a new enemy known as the Barrel Knight, which is an enemy with a barrel that lowers an axe that it wields and charges at you, is definitely a step up in difficulty. When I first got to this act as a new Rec Room player, this level kicked my butt and it was super difficult, but fun as well. Even as you get better at this act, it still never fails to be fun. The number 7 spot on this list goes to the Castle Grounds in Crescendo of the Blood Moon. The Castle Grounds comes right after the carriage ride in Crescendo of the Blood Moon, meaning it is near the beginning of the quest. The Castle Grounds is the second checkpoint in the quest, as Crescendo of the Blood Moon is easily the longest quest to date, taking an average of over 40 minutes. The Castle Grounds is a very unique act in this quest because not only is it the only act of Crescendo that takes place outside and during the day, it is also a very fun and open act that is a great relief from the claustrophobic carriage. Another neat thing about this level is that it introduces a new enemy to the quest as well, known as the Marksman that aims at you with what appears to be a musket for a second or two before shooting at you. This act is quite tricky, but still a blast to play no matter what skill level you pertain to. The number 6 spot goes to Port Plunder from Isle of Lost Skulls, which takes place after the high seas. You start off at a pier where ships and boats are docked, later on moving into a town, fighting enemies along the way. What makes Port Plunder special for me is its unique setting with a pier and a town that are both very fun to explore and battle it out in. Also, Port Plunder has a killer soundtrack that happens to be playing right now. I'll give you a short listen. Another Isle of Lost Skulls level, number 5 on this list goes to Gibbet Jungle, which ironically comes right after Port Plunder. You start this act surrounded by sand, palm trees, and tall rocks as you traverse through the level. Shortly after the level starts, you will be introduced to a new enemy in the quest, called the Gibbet, hence the name Gibbet Jungle. Pretty much what a Gibbet is a skeleton shielded by a cage that throws bombs at you. One thing I like about this act is the setting of a jungle in the sunset, as it really fits the whole pirate theme of this quest. Two things I find really neat about this quest are the cave or cavern or whatever it's called, that you have to go under and fight enemies in. The other thing that I find neat is actually very cool and something that hasn't been done in any other quest. Once the stage is finished, there's a bridge that you have to build in the end to order to reach the cave. I think that this is really neat, and it was smart of the developers of Isle of Lost Skulls to include this instead of just a door that led to the next act. Moving on to a new quest, the number 4 spot on this list will be going to the bog and the Curse of the Crimson Cauldron. It takes place in, you guessed it, a bog. It starts you off in a somewhat small area with a little wooden structure that I'll just call a hut. One cool thing that follows is that you have to use lifesavers in order to pass through the swampy water of the bog, which will kill you if you fall into it. You then stumble across a series of huts with bridges attaching them and a butt ton of enemies appear. It's pretty hectic, but still very fun. But at the end of the act, something amazing happens, something that has never been done in the game until now. The first mini-boss. This swamp creature, known as the Bog Monster, was the first mini-boss to ever see the light of day in Rec Room. It even inspired its own cosmetic set, known as the Bog Monster set, and I personally have everything except the headpiece to that set, as it costs a whopping 9,000 tokens. But you know, maybe one of you could gift it to me or something, you know what I mean? No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I'm really glad the creators of the quest put the time and effort into this mini-boss because it is one of, if not my most favorite mini-boss in the game. This mini-boss is just icing on the cake for the already great level that the bog is. Moving back to Crescendo of the Blood Moon, the number 3 spot on this list goes to the Lower Sanctum. The Lower Sanctum is an extremely dark act that requires one person in your party to carry a torch. There aren't that many enemies in this act, and most of it consists of you maneuvering a series of very unique obstacles like a series of arrow traps, swinging axes, and moving lasers. At least that's what they look like. Just like the bog, at the end of the stage there is, you guessed it, a mini-boss. Instead of a bog monster, this time it is a giant barrel dog that charges at you. It is pretty easy to beat, but still very satisfying nonetheless. There is also a cheat at the beginning of this level that allows you to skip all of the obstacles and go straight to the mini-boss, which makes me feel that this is an act that is really underrated, as many people just use the glitch walking technique and miss out on all of the obstacles. After a while, we are now moving back to the Rise of Jumbotron. The number 2 spot on this list goes to the Space Act in Jumbotron. In this level, every sound is muffled and you can't hear your team, and there's a line of treadbots right in front of you. Shoot the explosive barrels and boom, they all explode in slow motion. And let me tell you, that is to this day one of the coolest moments in any quest. Anyway, after that, you go into a series of rooms and fight more robots. Like many acts in this video, this act also introduces a new enemy to the quest, known as the Elite Treadbot. The Elite Treadbot is an extremely buffed version of the normal Treadbot, as they have much more health, shoot way faster, and shoot way more projectiles. If you aren't careful, the Elite Treadbot could take out your team in the blink of an eye. Space is super special, and it blew me away when I first experienced this act. Finally, we are at the number 1 pick. Picking this was a bit tricky, but it all just came down to the atmosphere of the act. The number 1 spot on this list will be going to the Bell Tower in the Curse of the Crimson Cauldron. As the name implies, this level takes place in a bell tower that you have to ascend. The level gets hectic pretty fast when you're halfway up the tower and there are swarms of enemies charging you from both ends, and you're forced to choose between dying and jumping all the way back to the bottom. The atmosphere in this level is unmatched, and it helps that this is the final level of the Curse of the Crimson Cauldron before the boss, which only adds to the atmosphere and the special feeling. One fun thing to do in this level is to climb to the top of the bell tower and then jump all the way back down. Me and my friends do this several times whenever we get to this act. Not to mention, the music in this act is incredible. Have a listen. Well, there we have it. Those are my top 10 favorite Rec Room quest acts. If you don't agree with me, tell me your top 10 in the comments below. I'd love to see your favorite quest acts. Also, sorry that most of this video was recorded in screen mode. This video has been in the works for over a year now and I started it before I got PC VR. Anyways, thanks for watching, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!